So, do you ever wish you could update a Lambda function to generate a serverless function in Python for Amazon S3 event notification? You can. This is sped up, but we'll do it slowly later on. So this is the power of Amazon Q Developer, and this is what we're going to talk about today, but we are just getting started. So you can see it's zooming right along. It's found a plan for what we're going to do. I gave it text that I wanted. I gave a little bit of code, gives you a full diff showing everything it's added, and it's updating across all of the files. That's what we're getting into today, and I'll bring you all along with me. There you go, the next one. Yes. So welcome, everyone. As Lars said, so I am from Brisbane. I actually grew up in Mackay and Moranbah, which is where I was yesterday. And it's really exciting to be back in Australia. Another thing that I get a lot of joy out of, which you can see on my Twitter, I just put a thing up, is doing Australian accent voiceovers for AWS product announcements. I love being the one to say data. There's one I got to talk about Titan Text Premiere recently, and I had a full crisis trying to say Premier in an American accent, and I gave up, as you'll see on youtube.com. So it's great to be back in Australia. I always tell people at AWS the quality of developers we have here, and it's really, really good to be back. So if you came to this session, you already know what serverless is, but we can ask Amazon Q in the console, and it knows too, which is great. So as Amazon Q explains, serverless is like a cloud model where the provider, like AWS, manages the server infrastructure. Our code runs in response to events or triggers, and we only pay for the compute we actually use. So this serverless approach brings lots of benefits, which is also why you all came today, including reduced infrastructure management, pay-per-value pricing, improved agility and velocity, increased availability and resilience, and enhanced security. So accelerating serverless development while maintaining quality is crucial for reducing your operational overhead, improving that agility, optimizing your costs, ensuring scalability and resilience, and event-driven architectures. However, all of this only works if you know what to do with it. So this is another quick demo of Amazon Q in the AWS console, which you'll be able to see working. And this is what we're getting into today. So it's got a really deep understanding of AWS services. It's trained on 17 years of AWS knowledge, and it can help you across the entire software development lifecycle. But the thing is that it's really new, so lots of the messaging hasn't made it out to people. I myself was on stage at reInvent last year in Adam Seligman's Vice President session, explaining some of these features that were launched, and that was only a few months ago, and so much has already changed since then. So lots of people are out of the loop, which is probably somewhat my fault for not making even more content on LinkedIn, but we're going to talk about it in this session. This is the diagram that does not exist in the docs, but this is my public petition for it to be added to. So Q is really confusing because it's got a lot of elements to it now, and they keep getting added to. So there's 5 key parts so far today. These 3 on the end, so Amazon QuickSight, Amazon Connect, which is the phone call one, and AWS Supply Chain, which is what it sounds like, as well as QuickSight, which is the BI dashboards. All of those have Amazon Q capabilities. None of those are relevant to this talk, but they exist, and you'll see them on the website. Don't get confused. Next, Amazon Q for Business. Once again, not in this talk, but still cool. So I have an Australian driver's license. I have an international driver's license, but turns out in the state of New York, I need to do the full-on, learner's permit, driver's ed. I have to do everything to get my American driver's license in the state of New York. So naturally, I built an Amazon Q app to help me study for this. I uploaded a PDF from the DMV, and I'm using it to learn about how to drive in snow, which is something I have never had to think about before. I am from Queensland. But this is not in this talk. If you would like to learn more, that is a blog post where I go into it, and there will be more things being uploaded. I have filmed them, yes. Have I edited them? No, I have not. What this talk is actually about is Amazon Q Developer. So there's chunks within this, and this is where the pieces start to fit together. So you can use it in your IDEs. So it provides inline code suggestions, vulnerability scanning, and chat in your IDEs, which can include JetBrains, IntelliJ IDEA, VS Code, and Visual Studio. Then, you can also use it in the command line. So get CLI auto-completions and AI chat in your favorite terminal, and they can be locally and over secure shell. Then you can also use Amazon Q Developer in the console. So you can open the Amazon Q panel, which is that little icon you've been seeing on the side, and then even in the AWS application the mobile application for iOS and Android, you can ask it questions. Do not sleep on this feature, especially, do we have any people who work in consulting? No, maybe, we have some. If you're a consultant, this is your new favorite feature, because I used to work in consulting, and a frustrating amount of my day was answering questions like, why should I use this or this? Why should I use this? Now we can just ask questions. So like, what AWS services would I use to build a serverless web application with React, API gateway, and a database? It's going to think for a little bit. Wonderful. It's thinking. And then it will give us an answer because the demo gods smile upon me. So this is AWS Amplify, Lambda, API Gateway, DynamoDB. It's giving you little descriptions of these which actually tell you what it's for. If you're studying for an AWS certification, this is going to help you a lot as well. It's even giving you a code snippet of how you're going to get the Amplify CLI set up with the npm install and Amplify init things that you will need. And then at the bottom, when I scroll down to it, yes, you can see the sources, so you can actually find things. Because even as someone that makes a lot of content for AWS, it's hard to find my own content. So, oh, perfect, I even kept the word thing in there. Perfect. Now, will this work? So we've done it in the console, and now we can look at Amazon Q Developer across all of these. So you can ask it how to build a 3-tier web application and get that assistance to explore new AWS capabilities, review your resources, analyze your bill. That's a new one. That got buried in one of the announcements because there were so many other announcements. You can now, it understands AWS Cost Explorer, so it can dig into your bill, and you can ask it follow-up questions. So if you need a way to make sure that you're explaining things correctly to your executives or your clients, this is a really good way to make sure you're giving them the full picture, because often when tech people talk to tech people, there's a lot of information that they just sort of leave because they think everyone understands it. I've been finding this really helpful when I'm explaining these things to non-technical people because it makes sure I'm not missing important things in there. Will it let me click? It's not. Now it will. So it also helps you to code faster. So you may have seen this in something called Code Whisperer before. There's a reason you don't hear about Code Whisperer now, because that's, as you can see, being done by Amazon Q Developer. So it's generating real-time suggestions ranging from snippets to full functions based on your comments and existing code in your favorite IDE. As we talked about earlier, it's also supporting CLI completions, and you can use natural language to bash translation right in your command line. Now, who's been harassed about agents recently? I have. So Amazon Q Developer agents take out lots of the work of complex multi-step tasks. So as you can see, the agent for software development is helping you plot twist to do software development. So it can help with managing features, documenting code, bootstrapping new projects, all from a single prompt. So the agent for software development recently achieved the highest scores on the software engineer. Yes, SWE Bench Leaderboard and Leaderboard Lite. You can look this up. Additionally, if you haven't used Amazon Q Developer in a while, it's been updated. You will notice this not because the icon is different inside your IDE, but because the functionality is different as well. So as we'll see later, you can give it a go, and that will help you out. It's also going to help you to modernize legacy code in minutes. This is very, very cool. So you can go from Java 8 or 11 to Java 17 in a few clicks. I'm really excited about this because this is the first. It's only working with Java now, but I know .NET is on the horizon, which I am incredibly excited about. So it's going to upgrade and transform your Java apps. This is one of the things that lots of developers know they need to do, but they just don't want to, which I respect. So now you can use Amazon Q Developer to make sure this is all happening across. It's also going to do tests to make sure everything is working out as you would like it to. Will I click? Yes. So you can also operate and optimize through chat. This is something that I've been using a lot within the console version of Amazon Q Developer. I got a few questions before, like why would I use the console one if I have it in my IDE? And things like this are really helpful if you're getting different errors in your console, or you're managing someone who's getting different errors in your console, and they want to be able to check things before they come to you. So you can use a simple natural language prompt. This is in preview, and Amazon Q Developer will help you diagnose the errors in the console, even help you pick the right type of instance, as well as helping you fix network connectivity problems so you can manage your infrastructure faster. This one is very cool to see when it's working for you because if you're in the console, you're not there because you love troubleshooting errors usually. Normally you're there because you want to be doing something, and getting that error is stopping you from being able to actually achieve it. So being able to just get through the annoying part is really helpful. Additionally, as someone that is mostly self-taught as a developer, this is what I wish I had at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night when I was trying to do lots of this stuff. Having someone who's there to help you at weird hours of the day or night when you're not embarrassed to ask them a question is helpful for anyone learning to code, helpful for anyone you manage learning to code, and also a helpful piece of the puzzle so you're getting fewer weird questions. So people can actually help themselves first. So much of the job of a software developer is figuring stuff out. And this really helps you to figure things out in a way that makes more sense, as well as giving you, as we saw earlier, the sources to get things started. Will it click? It will. So you can also improve reliability and security. So it can write your unit tests for you. Additionally, as we can see later on, it's going to generate tests when we use the /dev software development agent. You can go in, there's a demo that I made that is, I think, in the LA Summit today, but being able to go in and edit the test that gives you so you add more to it. It's not that you ask it to demonstrate something and it gives you the code and then that's it. You can then interact with it, which I found really helpful specifically for making tests and making test cases that align with everything else you're doing. Because I think overall people don't write enough unit tests because they're there to do the thing they want to do. They don't really care about the tests. They're not writing enough, and they're not using them as frequently as they should be. So things like this are going to help you to get back to what you actually want to be doing in your IDE of choice, while also making sure that it's got that reliability and security. So it's got security scanning, which you would have seen if you've used anything in CodeGuru before, as well as if you used any of the security scans in Code Whisperer, but there's some different things as well. It's going to check for things like the OWASP top 10, as well as other factors to make sure that you are building things correctly and your team are building things correctly. When you're managing a really big team, this is something that's going to help you to make sure everyone is doing clean work at the start, as well as thinking in a way that they're checking for this overall instead of just writing code and then hoping for the best later on. It's going to click. Cool. So I write a lot of articles for community.aws. I think Mike is here. Mike also writes a lot of articles for community.aws. Maybe Derek is here. Community.aws, you can also, as a community member, write an article. It will be really good and give you a .aws link for any of your stuff so you can have it published there. I have an article that's the ultimate cheat sheet for using Amazon Q Developer in your IDE. It is what it sounds like. It's the page of docs that I wanted to exist for this. So I also made it in an image version on LinkedIn, and these are the main commands you'll need. So /clear is what it sounds like, not that exciting. /dev is the exciting one that I think will get most people actually using it. So when you're doing /dev, that's when you're going to use the Amazon Q Developer agent for software development. Also sometimes called feature development, you might see in different blog posts and docs. This is where you're saying /dev, and then in natural language, you're asking it to implement a feature. At this point, it's then going to update not just the code window you have open, but if you've got a repo with multiple files, it's going to look across all of them. And then especially if you haven't implemented testing, it's going to add a whole file in your repo for that testing and then make sure everything is integrated across what you're doing. It's very cool. I think it's something that if you're used to Code Whisperer and it's just giving you the end of a line or it's filling out the function, that's going to be a very different experience to if you're using that as it goes across. /transform is the Java transformation we were talking about earlier. .NET, I believe, is coming soon. I'm allowed to say that. It's on the website. It's not a little trapdoor that's going to just come out for me. That's how you can upgrade your Java apps. /help, once again, is what it sounds like. If you do not have my cheat sheet, that's going to give you all of the other commands. The other pieces, which I'll show you in the IDE, you can ask it to explain your code to you. You can just highlight a section, say send to Amazon Q explain, and it's really nice. It will give you a nice overview. My friends who've gone to use this in consulting recently, when they're faced with a repo they have no idea what's going on with, they're using this to really get an understanding first before then realizing what they need to double down on. Refactor is what it sounds like, and this is going to help you to refactor your code in a way that makes sense. Fix, shocking, is what it sounds like, as well as optimize. And then send to prompt is cool. So you can just highlight any code, say send to prompt, and then you can just ask it questions. So you can say, what would happen if I changed this to this? What would happen if I updated this? What's the point of this variable? Why is this the way it is? Which is something I wish I could ask about the world a lot, but this is a way you can do it in your IDE. So I'm going to be very brave now, and we're going to try and do it in the IDE, and it's going to go great. So this is the Amazon, or the AWS extension, your IDE. When you've updated VS Code in the last 2.5 weeks, there's now a little Q button. Great news. So now we can say we want a new chat. We're going to highlight this. I'm going to type correctly. We don't even have to highlight it, actually. I'm going to go /dev. Look at this. Plan and implement new functionality across multiple files. Perfect. Now we're going to say generate a serverless API in Node.js with Amazon API gateway. Oh, there we go. And AWS Lambda. I know how to type. Perfect. So now it's thinking about an answer. This is one of the things in my demos. I've started putting a piece of thing to say this is how long this demo actually takes. Shockingly, people are not good at paying attention. I understand, but also people really want to know how long stuff takes. That's why I'm doing this in front of you. It takes as long as it takes, but it's also one of the things when you actually start using it for things, you'll realize how it fits in with your workflow. Additionally, look, we have a plan. I'm going to drag this across. Okay, so I really like that it gives you a plan, because if you're learning, even if you don't actually develop this code yourself, like you don't actually use Amazon Q Developer to develop this code, what a blessing that it's telling you exactly what to do. I think for beginners, even just getting to this code plan will help them so much in being able to execute on this. So it introduces itself. Lovely to meet you. So it's using foundation models from Bedrock. Now it's going to go up the steps. So it's going to set up the AWS Lambda function, which I asked it to. Then it's going to set up the API gateway. So it's also telling you what code changes are required, and you'll see this later in the diff. Now we can set up the project dependencies. So we've got another package JSON. We're going to add a required SDK. Now set up testing. Most people, if they were just doing this, they in fact would not bother to do this testing step at all, at least till the end. But now we can see these test cases. So we've already got 2 test cases here. We can add other ones if we would like. And you can also say what your expected output will be. If you have very specific code inside your organization, you can then be really specific here as well. And you can configure and deploy the Lambda function API gateway, showing the code changes. So now by following these steps, you'll have a serverless API with Amazon API Gateway and AWS Lambda. The API Gateway will act as the entry point for incoming requests, and it will invoke the Lambda function to handle the requests and generate responses. The Lambda function will be written in Node.js. We asked it to do this, and it will be deployed to AWS Lambda. Perfect. So now we can just click Generate Code. So now what it's going to do is it's going to generate the code. Does it shove the code straight into the repo? No, it does not. So we get to check everything before it goes in, which is very nice, especially when this is happening across multiple files. This is not sped up, but you will see in my social media videos, I do speed it up because life happens. So this will work. The demo gods smile upon me, and it's not going to break. But I also am proud of myself for typing this correctly with these nails, so we've done that at least. This plan as well, like I said, if you're managing people, this plan alone being able to say specifically what you need to do. When you look at prompt engineering, which when you're prompting this with /dev, you are giving it a prompt. When you look at why people are bad at prompt engineering, it's because they're bad managers. Like they're not good at explaining specifically this is what's going wrong. They're not good at explaining specifically this is what you need to do. They're just hoping they can give you a little bit and people will figure it out. Plot twist, that's why management training exists, because people are not good at doing this. So things like this will help you to be a better manager when you're giving people tasks, because you'll be able to be more specific and methodical about what you're asking them to do, especially if you're training and mentoring junior developers who want to be able to be a great developer in future, which as more stuff is happening with generative AI, lots of people are hoping to get this. Okay, great. Code suggestions. So now in our package JSON, so now we didn't have one before, so it's saying empty. Wait, I can scroll this across. Perfect. No, I cannot. So we didn't have one before. It's going to add a package.json. It's going to have all of this in there. Then it's going to say test.js. We didn't have one before, and now it's got all of your tests. Will it let me drag this? It will not. Anyway, you can see these are the 2 test cases we talked about if we wanted to add more. So this is where we can provide feedback to regenerate. If you would like to add another test case, this is where the magic happens. I'm just going to click Insert Code, and then we can close the session because we don't even want to do this. So now, just to show you what we've got. So now in our thing, it's added all of this. It's put our tests in this folder, got package.json. I want to see what's in here, so I am going to go send to Amazon Q, explain. Perfect. As you can see, this is much faster than the generation of code. and it's really telling you everything that's happening. So it's telling you what its name is, its version, it's giving you a description, then the main entry point of the file is here. It's got a single script defined, which is a test that runs the testing framework Jest. It's giving you the dependencies and the dev dependencies. So we can go into this one. Why don't we, for fun, look, I'm going to try and click refactor on this. Does it need to be refactored? No. We'll see what happens, but maybe if we go optimize. See what happens. Cool. So this is giving you options on how you could optimize it, which once again, if you're a manager, this is going to really help you to give people options on where they should go from. Instead of just saying you must do this because this, you're going to say these are the options you can do. So they could use a variable environment for the port instead of hard coding the port number. Nice practice if that's relevant to your use case. You can use different OR operators for the port if the environment variable is not set. And you can remove unnecessary comments, which, maybe leave them in if you're working in a big team. And then you can use the arrow functions. So it's using traditional function expressions for the route handler. Really great that I didn't have to save route. And we've updated these to use arrow functions. So then you can see, you don't even have to use this necessarily. We can just copy this, and then we can just paste that in, which has changed it to the newer version, and that will be there. So there's lots of different things in here, as we saw. There are also, none of these keyboard shortcuts are in the docs, so they're in my blog post, but let me know if you actually use the keyboard shortcuts, because I am on a crusade regarding them. But that's what it looks like in the console. And I'm going to play from current slide. Yes, all right. The biggest thing I wanted to get across today is to tell AWS about your feelings. This is an experiment I am running. This goes to a survey that you can put your name and your email in. The best thing about being annoying online and working at AWS is that people respond to me in Slack when I complain about things now. So if there is something that you don't like about Q, something that is frustrating you, something that is taking you too long, it's giving you weird responses to this, please tell me. I'm asking for your name and your email so I can connect you with the product team who can actually improve things based on customer feedback. I think this is something that AWS does in the background and doesn't really tell people about, but there's so many services that only exist because customers asked for them. So this is your opportunity. Please ask for it. I've just set this up for today, so it's open for just today. It closes tomorrow, the survey. This will come to me. I will get through to things when I get back to the US. Please complain in writing. If I could give you one piece of advice, if you're going to complain to AWS, put it in writing so we can send things up the chain as we need to. But this is how I am hoping to use being annoying on social media for your personal gain. So if there's something that you don't like about Q or a different product, let me know, put your name there so I can help you follow it up. But we've explored how Amazon Q Developer can help you build serverless applications in this session, and we talked about developer workflows. It's going to help you across the entire software development lifecycle, but I think a big part of that software development lifecycle is also the management and mentoring part, and one thing that I think everyone that comes to this conference is already a mentor in some capacity, I would guess. So think about how you can use generative AI tools, not just for yourself, but in the ways you're managing and mentoring your staff, making sure you're bringing developers into this strange new world that we're in a way that they're giving the right advice, they're getting the right pointers, things like that. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you fill this out, can you keep a screenshot? Because I have small gifts to give to you if you're one of the first 18 to do this. Please do this. But yes, use generative AI in a way that helps you become a better manager. I think that's a big takeaway. There's lots of people trying to make things faster, and they forget that a big part of developer experience is the experience of actually working in a development team. So think about how you can use it to streamline that process as well. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we can wrap up. And if you would like to talk about any non-generative AI AWS products, you can find me outside. I'll stick out a lot. Thank you so much as well. So I'm here to renew my visa, and Peter was incredible and just let me slip into the lineup with very short notice. So huge shout out to the community here for being very welcoming.
Thanks, Brooke. That's awesome. So